Like any normal person, I obsessed about my first flight with my baby for weeks and weeks before I even bought the ticket. And the whole thing went way worse than I could have ever imagined, and way better than I could have imagined. I will be posting a video about tips and tricks for flying with a baby, so do subscribe to my channel. So we got in the car at like 4 in the morning. Maybe it was 5 in the morning. It was some god awful hour. It was dark. And we were driving to the airport. And my baby's usually okay on car trips. You know, she usually doesn't cry. And I don't know, maybe it was just getting up so early and how unusual the whole thing was. But by the first 20 minutes or so on the way to the airport, she was just crying. And I've got her strapped in a car seat, and so I'm trying to give her a bottle of some formula that I made in the car, and she's not taking it and she's not having it. And so eventually we make it to Seattle, to the airport, SeaTac, and she's calmed down and we get out of the car and she's just like, oh, it's daylight and we're doing stuff and it's interesting, and she calms down for a minute. And she and I get inside the airport to where you would, get your boarding passes printed and have your luggage checked. And I'm going through the process of getting my boarding passes and checking everything in by myself, just me and the baby. And I'm not paying enough attention to her and we're not moving, so she just starts crying again. And then I do get some items checked in and we go and get in line in the TSA line. And I think she's going to be okay. She's calmed down. We're moving again, and then we're stuck in a slow moving line. I've got her little toy that lights up and plays music, and I'm trying to do everything I can to get through the line, keep moving, and deal with the child, and keep her from being on the verge of fussing. She did cry off and on for like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes in the TSA line. And then we make it through the screening process where they check our bags and they check us out, and that was a nightmare because they held us up for going through my bags and seeing the baby stuff that I had in my diaper bag, which I mean really so unnecessary, but whatever. Eventually we make it through to the other side, and she's just tired and in an unfamiliar place, and she's obviously wanting to nurse. She is hitting at my breast, and so I pull over with all of our luggage and I find a bench right on the other side of the TSA, and I just nurse my baby right then and there, and she calms right down. And some old man afterwards comments that I'm doing a great job. He saw me going through the line with the baby, I'm sure. And so then we walk to our gate, and I don't really want to get on the plane because I don't want to do that thing where you're standing in the aisle waiting for everybody to get situated, and I don't want to do that while holding a baby that might be getting fussy. So I waited until the last possible second to board the plane. And you could tell the people that were scanning my boarding pass were like rolling their eyes at me for taking so long to get on the plane. But I just, I didn't want to stand there in the aisle with the baby. I figured I would wait until the last possible second. We'd get in there, we'd get in our seats, we'd get situated. I changed her diaper in the parenting slash family bathroom right before we got on the plane so that she was in an overnight diaper and we could just stay situated in our seat for how many hours? It was supposed to be 3.5 hours that we were just going to stay in our seats. So I get onto the plane last second. We get partway onto the plane, and this really nice flight attendant, he sees me carrying my purse, and it's a backpack purse. So you can imagine why I'm doing this. And I've got my diaper bag, and I've got a baby, and I just am carrying all this stuff. He's like, can I help you? Well, yes, thank you very much, kind sir. So he escorts me to our row, and I had purposely got a window seat because I knew that I wanted to nurse my baby on the flight to keep her calm and maybe help her fall asleep and take a nap, and just, to make the whole thing go more smoothly. I wanted to be sequestered in the window seat off to the side and not, where I'm in the middle of everything. I figured I'd have more privacy there. So we get to my row, and there are two guys already seated in the row. One of them's in the aisle seat and one of them's in the window seat, and the middle seat's open. And the flight attendant's like, oh, that's her seat. She needs her seat. You guys are in her seat. She's supposed to have the window seat. And they look at us like they don't speak English. And the flight attendant explains to them again that that's my seat and that they need to let me get to my seat. And what the gentleman in the aisle seat does he seems really nice and congenial, and he's just trying to help. He moves over into the middle seat. I'm pretty sure the aisle seat was his seat because the guy that sat in my window seat the whole time, you could just tell by the look on his face that he wasn't supposed to be sitting in that window seat and he didn't want the middle seat. Whatever. I was just like, okay, yeah, it's not a big deal. I'll make through these 3.5 hours just fine. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I'll be cool. So I just sit right there in the aisle seat, and I then pull out a blanket, put it over myself and the baby, and she nurses and falls asleep right then and there. So I've got this 13-month-old baby. She's like 12 and a half months, but she's the size of a 2-year-old. I have a very tall baby. So I'm holding her like this, and her little head is hanging off the side right here. So anytime like the cart comes by or people are coming by, I'm having to like hold her, make sure she's not getting hit, making sure she's not in the way. People are hitting me kind of rudely because like I'm in their way by existing like that. I was supposed to be in the window seat. Whatever. I'm just cool about it. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I just managed to hold her there the whole time. And she slept for a good while. And then when she did wake up, a few hours into the flight, I was like, okay, well, we're supposed to be to Dallas soon. It's going to be fine. I'll just keep her entertained. I had brought some food for her. I had all of her little favorite board books. I had some toys. I had water. I had all of the things we would need to just keep her just, distracted, satiated, entertained, and all the good things so that I have a happy baby. Partway through this whole thing, I'm holding a sleepy baby. The flight attendant comes by to ask us if we want anything to drink, and I probably ordered water. Sounds like what I ordered. I ordered water or maybe some sparkling water. The guy in the middle didn't understand what the flight attendant was saying at all. Like, he had never flown before. You don't know they're asking what beverage you want, but he really didn't know what was going on. So I asked him, tu gustas café, tu gustas agua, and I helped him convey his order to the flight attendant. And then he was really grateful. He tries to speak to me in Spanish, and I have to explain to him, yo hablo muy poquito español, that I don't speak very much Spanish, and I explained to him why I know a little bit of Spanish. And we have a nice little abbreviated conversation for the best I can do in Espanol. Then, hours later, the flight has been going on for 3 hours, 3.25 hours, and it's supposed to be getting towards the end of the flight. And we get an announcement from the pilot that there's a thunderstorm going on in Dallas, and they're not going to land the plane, and that we're just going to circle around outside Dallas until something happens. Either the storm's going to clear up or I don't know. But we just keep flying around in circles for hours and hours. And it was to the point where we were going to run out of gas. And finally, at about 5 hours, we get an announcement from the captain that they're probably going to be able to land the plane in Dallas and not reroute us to Austin. We're thinking we were going to get rerouted to Austin. Now, here's what's interesting. The whole time that we're getting these announcements, from about 3 hours and 15 minutes in until about 5 hours and plus 5 hours and some change into the flight, the guy in the middle seat doesn't understand anything that's going on. The guy in the window seat is explaining to him in Spanish what's being said to us on the overhead speaker. So that guy in the window seat knew the whole time what we were saying to him at the beginning of the flight before it took off, that he was in my seat. Whatever, though. I just don't even care. I just am going to have a good attitude and get off this flight. So eventually we do land in Dallas, 5 hours and some change later. And I stand up, and the woman behind me says, "Oh my God, you had a baby with you this entire time." And I had no idea. So I felt pretty good about that. I really did keep the baby from fussing, crying, and having any sort of problem for 5+ hours that I wasn't anticipating. I mean, 3.5's long enough as it is. What's another hour and a half, I guess? So we get off that flight, and I bust out my phone, and I find out that my connecting flight from Dallas to Biloxi has been canceled. And supposedly they've rescheduled me for the next day at 9 p.m. I was completely taken back. At first I was like, oh, we're flying out later today at 9 p.m. And then I look at the date and realize we're not even scheduled until tomorrow. So I start, I'm talking to my family on text and on the phone. I'm like joking, oh, I guess we live here now, ha ha ha. and my baby's like trying to like scoot around the airport floor because she's not really crawling and she's not really walking, but she's learning to scoot, and she just wants to scoot everywhere at that point. And I'm trying to wrangle the baby, figure out what I'm going to do. And I decide that I want to, instead of flying into Biloxi, see if I can get anything that same day to New Orleans. They didn't have anything to New Orleans, so my sister ended up agreeing to drive to Mobile, Alabama to come get me, which actually was closer to her house than Biloxi in the first place, so that worked out. So I go to the desk. I'm able to get the last seat on the flight to Mobile, Alabama, so that all worked out, thank God. And we end up flying out from that airport a few hours later. Luckily, I had packed enough diaper and food for a couple of days in my diaper bag. I had no idea this was going to happen, and I don't know why I packed so excessively, but I'm grateful that I did. I had enough of everything in my purse to last. I don't know. I could have lived at the airport for a while and been fine. So we get to Mobile, Alabama later that night, and we find out that my baggage had been sent to Biloxi. It didn't show up in Mobile, Alabama. So my luggage, the next day we ended up going over there and getting the luggage, and it all worked out. We had a really nice time visiting my mom and my sister, and a week or so later I fly from Biloxi back to Dallas, and then back to Seattle. And when I get to Seattle, my luggage isn't there. The car seat my mother had gifted me was gone. My luggage was gone. It just wasn't there. They eventually did bring it to my house a couple of days later, my suitcase and the car seat. Thank God we already had a car seat in the car, though. If this does happen to you, the airport does have loaner car seats that they will give you so that you can have a car seat to take your baby from the airport to your house in between the time you're waiting for them to find your luggage and deliver it to your house. This is something I've actually seen happen before with my sister when we were visiting my dad. But, just very exciting all around. Not getting my luggage, both coming and going. Having to stay at an airport for way more hours than anticipated. Spending our first flight way longer in the air than we had anticipated, but it all worked out. I think, though, I'm going to stop flying to the Gulf Coast during hurricane season. It was not my first time doing this. It's definitely going to be my last. Also, I think in the future, if you can get a nonstop flight and not a connecting flight with a baby, definitely do that. I think next time I'm just going to fly straight into New Orleans because you can get a nonstop from SeaTac to New Orleans, and that would be way easier. So yeah, this is real life, having a baby. Sometimes, my videos are all happy and fluffy and focusing on the positive, but it's not all glitter and rainbows and unicorns all of the time. Sometimes being a mom has some challenges, but you can make it through it. A lot of it's just your attitude and what you're going to do with it. If you liked my video, thanks. I appreciate it. If you didn't like my video, I'm not going to say what I'm really thinking. But anyways, if you want to subscribe to my channel, you'd be greatly helping me out. Hope you have a great day. Good luck on your parenting journey.